basketball, Missouri versus Kansas is known as the border war. And it dates back to the Civil War. And it dates back to slave states versus free states. And it dates back to real animosity. And, when I lived in Kansas City, which is on the border of Missouri and Kansas, I got a firsthand education on the real hatred that exists between the two states and people that are from one state versus the other state, people that graduated from one school to the other school. And it's just sports, of course, and in that case, it's just basketball. But there is this kind of really underlying resentment and hate that bubbles to the surface. And I think it's really good. I know that it sounds somewhat unhealthy to keep grudges based on something that happened 200 years ago. At the same time, the thing about college sports is it matters when people believe that there's kind of a greater thing at play, and it's identity, and it's state loyalty, and it's state pride, and it's school pride, and alumni pride, and maybe some of that is dated, and maybe some of that can be unhealthy, but at the same time, if you want college sports to matter, you have to tap into the identity part of it because it's far more than a professional franchise. If you're a Baltimore Ravens fan, okay, the Ravens represent your city, but they've only been around for 20 some odd years. Whereas if you're a Maryland alumni or you've had a family that have gone to Maryland, being a Terp is far more of your identity. If you've got an education there, that it set up your life or your career there, you maybe met your wife there or your husband or something like that, or your kids go there. It's a much different bond. And so I saw this happen between Missouri and Kansas, and it was so petty. And it's pathetic. Look, should Missouri have left for the SEC? It's a far weirder cultural fit. They fit better in the Big 12. They were there forever. But once they left, Kansas took the ball and went home and said, you screwed us, so we're never going to do you a favor. When all that did was it ruined things for fans. That game, those games between Missouri and Kansas meant everything. And all it did was rob the fans. Yes, was there bitterness that a team would leave and kind of break the code? Yeah, but ultimately it didn't help anybody by not playing the game. The same thing's going to happen here. Mike Gundy thinks what he's doing is waving the flag for Oklahoma State. He's not. It doesn't help Cowboys fans to not have Bedlam. And when they say, well, Oklahoma didn't have to leave, it's true. They didn't have to leave for the SEC, but they did. And does it make you look weak for still having the game? I mean, the game is what matters, not how you got to the game. And this pettiness that exists in college athletics sometimes is cool, but sometimes it helps nobody. You don't have to end Bedlam. It won't mean as much because it won't be for conference titles. It'll be a little bit like the backyard brawl when West Virginia and Pitt used to be in the Big East together and now they're not. But it doesn't have to end. And if we remember last year's backyard brawl, it was awesome and got national attention and we were talking about it and it was great for both schools. Bedlam can still be Bedlam. Missouri and Kansas only recently began playing again because there were hurt feelings, but hurt feelings are stupid. You have a bunch of adults that pride themselves on we're helping young people become grown men. These coaches echo that all of the time. We want to help kids become young men. And these administrators fall over themselves that they're doing something for kids, for kids, for kids, for kids. And what they do is they stew in their own greed and pettiness. And I don't really know when those lessons for kids are supposed to come through your educational process. I mean, I would imagine that the lessons for kids would be to rise above. Or if you wanted to defend Missouri or Oklahoma or Texas or other schools that break contracts with their previous leagues, betterment of one situation. not getting caught in a worse situation out of sheer loyalty. I mean, there are a lot of ways you can cut this loaf of bread. We look at young athletes and say, leave your past behind when you get to campus. You don't want to be surrounded by those people. Those people aren't helping you get better. Your friends that want you to come back to town every weekend or after practice or during the summers, they're not looking out for your best interest. We're trying to get you to the next level. Well, you could argue that Oklahoma is saying, look at the paycheck of the SEC, look at the television contract of the SEC. We're bettering our situation. We don't want to be just caught in loyalty, because what's the benefit there? That could be a lesson for kids. And the lesson for kids from an Oklahoma State standpoint could be, no matter if it hurts right now, you take emotion out of it, you realize bitterness doesn't help anybody, and you do what's best for all. And actually what's best for all, recruiting purposes, your fan base, your alumni, is to keep the game going. Do you think Barry Sanders doesn't want Bedlam to exist anymore? Now, that guy's been a foundational bedrock of your program. Oklahoma leaves, and you're supposed to say, yeah, sorry, Bedlam doesn't exist anymore, Barry, because we don't like them. We're mad at them. That doesn't feel like you're teaching the kids a great lesson. There's a million pounds of hypocrisy that is baked into every college football coach, AD, and administrator that insists it's always about teaching young men how to become better, when they do a lot of the stuff they wish their kids wouldn't. There is no reason you have to end Bedlam. It's just a non-conference game now.